Warning! This podcast contains... What's up, everyone, and welcome to the As Seen on TV podcast for Saw 4. I'm Dom. Joining me is Kim and Nikki.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Fart noise, apparently.
Fart noise? What?
I don't know. That's what's going on. I
Fart
guess.
noise. Okay, then. So,
I'm done.
here we are. Fourth installment. After 3, you're left wondering, how can the series possibly continue when Jigsaw's dead? And then we find out, and not only is Jigsaw dead, but Amanda's dead. And we find out there's someone else. Someone who you guys thought was very suspicious in Saw 3, even though he had a grand total of
2 seconds.
20 seconds of screen time,
Yeah.
and most of which he was in the background.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Both me and Kim were just like, we don't like that guy. He
gave a
looks shady.
face. In his 20
Yeah.
seconds, he gave a face, and that was it.
Yep.
It was like,
Set us off.
what's up with you?
Well, if you were
It's
paying
like-
really close attention in Saw 3, you did, in fact, because you saw it in Saw 4 again, but you may have thought that was just like a reshot clip and they added stuff, but he actually took crime scene evidence from Saw 3 and put it in his pocket if you were paying close enough attention. So that was already established back in 3, like before 4 even hit. Like 4 went back and showed you, but you never know in those flashbacks if it's like something that they shot and they're like intercutting to make you feel like you saw it. But no, it's actually in Saw 3, so... yeah. So that's what I mean, like, there's clues hidden before things even happen, movies before they even happen, that they did intend. This was intended back when they made Saw 3, as an option, you know?
What I did notice was that particular actor between Saw 3 and Saw 4 did put on some weight. I noticed that, like, right away.
I didn't think that. Like, I wasn't paying that much attention. All I knew his face. And then we see him as a character, and I'm like, oh. So I didn't trust him from the beginning. Like we said, we did trust him from the very 20-second get-go.
Yeah. I mean, also, it wasn't just his face. It was also, like, the one line he said, the way he phrased his words, and the way he, like, it was just like, you're a creep. I have creepdar. You are making it going ding, 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 ding. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I had no emotion
Mm-hmm.
in his, like, it's weird, because it's there, like, the emotion's there, but it's not there. It's, because I wouldn't call him monotone, because it wasn't monotone. It was just, it's that lack of compassion.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah, because they're sitting there, they're like, oh, look at this crime scene. He's just like, it's just another crime scene.
Whoops. It's another dead body.
Well,
Yep.
with this movie in particular, this one is my favorite of the sequel franchise. And I absolutely love the time twist. Because that's the major twist of this movie. Like, there were multiple twists, but the major one is the fact that you're led to believe, because the movie starts off with Jigsaw's autopsy. Right? John Kramer, all that stuff, and then they cut his stomach open and they find the wax tape that we saw in Saw 3. He poured the wax over it. He encased it in wax so the stomach acid wouldn't break the tape down. Eventually, it would, but he knew he was going to be found pretty quickly. So, the candle wax was more than enough time to buy him for that. And in it says, you thought it was over, but the game's, have just begun. You thought you would walk away untested. And we have Detective Mark Hoffman listening to this tape. And then from there, we cut into the rest of the movie. And you don't find out until the end of the movie plays out that this entire movie is happening concurrently to Saw 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's like woven in and out, like...
kind of funny when we realized it was like 15 minutes before the end of the movie. That's literally when you find out. And I was like, you know what, guys? I really have to go to the bathroom. And it was in that like little 5 minute intermission where I got up and walked away is when everything kind of just came to be and like clarity just kind of shone a little. And both me and Kim were
I
like,
was pulling out all of these stops out of like all of this theories out of nowhere, just like blah, blah, blah. Oh hey, and I went back to like the beginning of the movie, like, oh hey, when the doll he had and he was talking about a little girl, I'm like, I bet it's blah 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 the girl from the other movie, and I like, and boop, I was right.
Yeah, like it just all these things came together. We needed that 5 minutes.
Right. You were kind of right. You said that he was gonna go rescue the girl, right? And that's not what he was doing.
Remember, I didn't like him. I didn't rescue him. Remember?
Right. But you're thinking this takes place at Saw 4. You think this is taking place after the movie. So at this stage, you didn't think like she's already kidnapped.
Well, yeah, I thought he was the one who knew where the girl was.
Right.
Not like saving the girl, but knew where she was. At that time I didn't know that they were concurring together.
Yeah, he was going to kidnap her at that moment when he said that. He was going to take her and lock her away. That was that. Because then if you go back now and watch Saw 3, through the keyhole when they show your daughter, I'm the only person who knows where your daughter is, she's holding that stuffed animal. So he is the one that lured her and then gave her the stuffed animal, and she's holding it in Saw 3. So at that moment, yeah, he was going to kidnap the girl. That's basically what he was doing at that moment when we saw that. But yeah, and then it all weaves in. We run into so like in this movie we dealt with Rig, right? He was one of the last remaining members of the police force that we are familiar with. It was Rig and then Detective Mark Hoffman, who were both being tested. Not really, but yeah. And you see Hoffman getting short with Rig and saying, you can never go through an unsecured door. You can't save everyone, go home, get some rest, do all these things. And because Riggs barged through and found Carrie shortly after she was strung up in the hanging angel trap.
If Amanda would have thought more forwardly when it came to that, like, she could have set another trap and would have got Riggs. Because all he did was burst through the door. He could have, boom, like shotgun bullshit, like in Saw 2 or Saw 1. It was first Saw. Yeah. Like, that could have happened. And that's why Hoffman was like, dude, you have to not do that because now is not your time to get tested, dude.
Well, it's also
that's what he's
thinking. This is Hoffman's game that he's setting up, right? So he's setting the rules for Rig as we go right now, like,
dude, don't mess up my game. You're next.
No,
Stop
like,
it.
no, it's not mess up. It's like, here's the rules for my game, but you don't know it's my game yet,
Well, I know. I'm just saying, like, Amanda could have rigged it again.
Yeah.
And then Riggs would be dead, and then Hoffman's game would be off,
Yeah.
So
but if we go by what we're thinking, Riggs actually helped with the hanging angel.
Correct.
It's we think it wasn't verified, but because they verified that there was no way that Amanda by herself could have lifted her into the trap.
Yeah. And because we're also introduced to Lindsay Perez and Peter Strom, two new characters. They're like FBI type agents that are taking over the investigation.
They had connections to Carrie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. She was like their.
She was their liaison.
Liaison. Yeah.
That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
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 So they were instructed with some messages. Open the door and you will find me. And then they were left with a key. And then 2 officers might be in trouble. Those are the messages they were left with, and then they come in, they're investigating all this stuff. So Carrie's body looks like it had been there for a couple days. There were rats
in her,
her chest cavity.
Yeah,
just hanging out, having fun.
Yep.
Probably having a party. There was probably strobe lights going on and stuff. We just didn't see it.
So this is when Peter Strom mentions we're here to find the accomplice that is not Amanda Young. Yeah, I'm just
Kim likes the rat party idea.
I really have the giggles tonight.
So they're already tipped off, but Hoffman's sitting there and he's like, but Amanda Young, no, she's not, she's 100 and something pounds, she can't lift Carrie up into there's no way. And he's like, well, Jigsaw, and he's like, no, his brains with bronze. He's like, but yeah, he's an engineer, he could rig pulleys, and he goes, maybe, but no. He just like shoots him down.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's another big hint for you, because he was just like, guys, just listen to me, because I know everything already. Stop it.
Yeah, he had serious, like I said, there was that whole attitude of like.
Yep. And then we go through and we see Hoffman has an interrogation tape with Jill Tuck. And we meet Jigsaw's ex. This is the girl now we saw during Jigsaw's brain surgery flashback.
I'm only accepting to this character because it gives us some more backstory on John. Otherwise, I hated her. I hated her so much. And yes, okay, we'll get into her later, but like, I don't know, just her overall attitude was just shitty. And I understand she went through some traumatic times, but like, it's been how many years now?
She went through some traumatic times, but she's also been, bombarded by the police when she's got nothing to do with this.
No, she only knew him up to the point where,
Before he went crazy.
Right.
Before he went crazy.
And she goes, didn't my first interrogation tell you so she's already disgusted that she's dragged out of work again over the same thing when she's got no new information.
But she did have new information for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have figured out about the warehouse and stuff like that. They just had to ask different questions.
It's information that was in her file, though. They could have just researched her file a little bit more. Because they pulled that out of the file and they go, "What is this?" Like, read the paper.
They didn't
figure it out.
The first time they didn't, have the right questions to connect the dots. They needed that extra person that that was kind of connected to it in the first place.
They kept trying to put her. They were pinpointing her as she was involved, and she wasn't involved.
Yeah.
So they were asking questions that were trying to incriminate her, and she was just like, I'm not involved.
So she's getting frustrated, and she's rightfully so. She's rightfully so. So she's being a little less cooperative than she needs to be, because she's disgusted with them, and it's kind of out of spite. It's just like, I gave you everything that I possibly could have given you the first time around.
I don't know. I just didn't like her. Even in the flashbacks, I didn't like her.
I get that. But we learn that John actually adopted the motto of her drug clinic for his mantra. Cherish your life. That's kind of like what all his murders are based around. So
yeah,
it's nice to see where the origin of like where that came from. We did get to see Gus.
Chills.
Yeah, we did get to see Gus again.
I didn't know it was Gus.
I didn't know it was Gus either.
You
had to point it out. I was like, I was paying attention to the other dude that pulled out his knife. It's like,
yeah, Joe was like, Gus, Cecil, like, stop.
Yeah, Cecil.
So she called out both, and that's when I, like, the first time watching, I was like, Gus? Wait, is that the same? No, that can't be the same Gus. Upon second viewing, yes, that is Gus. So it's one of those things. So we see Gus there, and we get the introduction to John's workshop, and kind of the origin of the puppet. Right, there was, I don't know if it came with the shop or if it's something he built.
He was painting it at one point.
Yeah, he built it.
Yeah, he made it. Which, okay, some people like creepy dolls to give to their kids. Their soon-to-be-born children. No, not me.
No.
If it was more colors than black, white, and red, I think it would have came across a little bit better. But it was definitely a younger Billy. So it was more of a child's toy, than anything, but yeah.
It still was creepy.
Oh, I
Dolls
agree.
are creepy.
Was
Dolls
it
are
a
creepy in general.
was it a doll or was it a working like actual
It was a puppet.
a puppet? It was an actual working puppet, so like
Yeah.
the mouth could move and stuff. So like it probably had that handhole up the
I think it
back.
was no. I think it was like a Nutcracker style opening.
It's
You
got
know,
like a
like it's just like a lever.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, like in the back of it. But
Still,
yeah,
it was creepy as fuck.
yeah.
You don't give that to an infant.
Well, we see
Like,
he was
come
doing
on.
that. He was building a
Look at
baby
this
crib.
adult. Fuck that.
You know, he was building a baby crib. We saw some signs of that, and then a little later we learned Jill was actually 6 months pregnant or 7 months pregnant.
I thought she was like 8.
No, 7.
Oh, okay.
And she said everything with John was meticulously planned. They did it around the Chinese zodiac, and everything like that. And then one night when she's locking up the clinic, Cecil, quote unquote, forgot his coat. He went back to get the coat, robbed the place.
Yeah,
and
he's a drug addict, so he
Yeah.
was trying to get drugs out of her.
Yeah, and then he slammed the door into her stomach, and she lost the child.
Yeah.
They went to the hospital, you know, all this stuff, and it destroyed John. It destroyed him to the point where he became so disconnected from Jill. Shortly after that, he was diagnosed with cancer, and then he tried to kill himself. So this is just adding on top of what we already know, you know, from him.
Yep.
With the, oh, he has cancer, he tried to kill himself, now he appreciates life more. No, it wasn't just that he killed himself. He was trying to kill himself because of cancer. He lost his child, you know, and like he
Yep.
has this huge downward spiral, and it was just the cancer was another thing to stack on top of it. So, you know, it just it puts that into perspective a little bit more.
And it wasn't just that it was like he was diagnosed with this cancer, but it was so far gone that he couldn't do anything about
Right.
it. So,
And John does not like not being in control. Like he's very, very
Obviously.
meticulous. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he did see Cecil running out of the clinic, and he's kept that in the back of his mind. And you know, when that
His
all
first
went
trap.
down, huh?
his first trap.
Yeah. Well, we also learned that he had a business partner, which was Art Blank. He was his lawyer / business partner. And him and Jill go to check on John a little bit, you know, later because neither of them have heard from him. They wanted to see if he was okay. In it, they find photos of Cecil all over the place. And Jill asks him, you know, what are these pictures for? What did you do to Cecil? He says, I taught him not to take his life for granted. And then it shows John following him. It shows the Chinese New Year, the parade, which is the Year of the Pig. And so this is where we learn where the metaphor for, you know, like where the pig came about. So, yeah. So, according to the actual Chinese zodiac, the years that this was going on, this movie didn't come out until
2007?
yeah, the movie came out in 2007. There was a Year of the Pig in 2007, but we can't go by that because these are flashbacks.
Yeah.
So
I'm
the
thinking
closest one
1995?
is 1995, yeah.
Yeah.
So that has to be around the time that these took place. So you can kind of see from that point now, 1995 to 2007. We're going to assume that it's in present time-ish, the movies.
Yeah.
Because even though they all take place like within a couple weeks of each other, and they're all coming out one a year, you know, so it's probably like 2005, 2006, really. Something like that. So that's like 15 years later after he was diagnosed with the cancer. And so it may not been immediate, but, you know, somewhere it could have been like a year or two. So it goes to show you how long he was living with it. You know, and all that, and how long he had to prepare a lot of this stuff. So he grabs two of the pig masks. He grabs a rag full of chloroform, and he sticks one in the mask and puts it over Cecil's face, brings Cecil back to his workshop, and puts him in this trap. And as he's talking to him, this is when you get the first clue that this movie is not what it's meant to be, which you think it's a sequel. And John says to Cecil, "Things aren't sequential." And that's our very first tip-off, because we've learned now, especially since Saw 2, John chooses his words very carefully.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, he puts him in a head mask with these knives. They're about, I want to say, 8 knives, 8 to 12 knives.
They're like the big,
are 4 on each side.
The big kitchen knives too. It's not like little, not butter knives or anything, guys.
Yeah, what Kim's doing.
Kitchen knives.
Kim, how does that trap go? Yeah, like that. Lady Gaga style.
Yep.
I can't read your poker face.
Especially not after this trap.
No. And he has to push his face through the knives to hit a release valve that will free him from the trap. As he's doing that, he keeps pulling himself back, and it hurts. Your reaction is, I don't want to keep going, so you pull back. Yes, we know as viewers, that's stupid. You should just keep going. But when you're in there and you're in that situation, you're not thinking clearly.
He was also not thinking clearly because he was high as the sky.
That's very true. That's very true.
What did he say? And the way he's like,
I don't have a fucking soul.
He didn't say it like that, but he was so, I don't have a fucking soul. It was like a question because he was high.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was so bad.
He's like, I don't know what's going on.
And what is unclear is if he actually hit the release valve or if the trap broke out from under him.
That was what I was trying to figure out, because the whole chair, the chair falls apart underneath it. I'm like, was that supposed to happen? Because the chair mechanism supposed to just fall apart when he kicked himself?
I think so. Because
I don't. Personally, I don't. I think the trap broke.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he did have. It was his first one, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
He still had one of the cuffs that were connected to him still in him.
Mm-hmm.
Because the initial, before he put the head mask on, his arms and his legs were strapped to the chair, and in the, at least just I don't know if it happened, there was the same with the feet, but in the arms it had a blade that was pressing against his wrist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you either push yourself through this mask to release so you don't bleed to death, or you sit there and bleed to death. So he's like, this is how it works. But
so what I think is, this was his first trap. He's not very experienced in building stuff like this quite yet. And it malfunctioned. And it broke.
Mm-hmm.
But we see how John is. And that he's always thinking like a carpenter. One step ahead. Carpenter building stairs. One step ahead. And he had a bed full of razor wire behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And when Cecil charged him, he just simply toroed him. Toro, ole.
Ole.
Right into this razor barbed wire, which enveloped him. It just
because it was set up it was literally just kind of rolled into the middle of it and just kind of.
Yeah, he got caught easily, but Cecil he was so enraged and pissed off. If John wasn't there, I'm pretty sure Cecil would have, maybe came to terms with what was happening. But because it was John's first trap, he kind of had to be there, in arm's length to make sure things were working properly. So, Cecil got out of the trap and he's like, I'm going to fucking kill you. He grunted, yelled this, and then he went after him, and then John just stepped out of the way and into the razor wire, which I kind of think was his it's that's a good one. I'm going to keep that one for later.
Mm-hmm. Now,
which he did.
Yeah.
This kind of also, I think, sets up where John likes the front row seat to all his victims, because he likes, he wants to see, like the whole thing. He doesn't want them to die. That's not what he wants. Maybe Cecil, but that's not, every moving on after that. That's not what he wants. He wants them to survive. He wants them to appreciate their life. So
he wants to teach them a lesson,
right.
And he wants to see them grow from that lesson. He doesn't want them to die. Right.
So, I think that's why he books the front row seat, why he watches everything, all that. And I think he learned a lot from this Cecil experience. After, we see this flashback, Jill storms out and she's like, I lost him too. And we see John rip the sheet off of this nice glass box, like a glass coffin with, broken glass inside of it.
And a single key.
Yeah. And this was a trap that was meant for this movie that got cut.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure. So when I saw that scene, I was like, well, what is this for? We didn't see this.
Right. That does not mean it will not come up later, but it was originally intended for this movie. It got cut. But we know how the Saw franchise works, and they set things up early now, so it doesn't matter that the trap itself got cut, because we could see that later down the line.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, because at this point it was like, what are you?
Yep. In the meantime, while they're interviewing this and all that, Detective Hoffman had asked Rigg to go home. So Rigg goes home. He gets home early, and he finds his wife Tracy. She's getting ready to leave to help her mom. She leaves him a note. You could tell they're having some problems at home, but it's nothing that's irreparable.
No, she understands, but it's kind of getting to that point where it's starting to grate on her nerves.
Yeah.
But she wasn't leaving because of, initially I was like, oh no, she's leaving because she's upset with him. But no, it was her leaving because she had to go help her mom. And she just come with me. And he's like, I can't. And that was the whole reason why Hoffman sent him home, was to spend time with his wife and appreciate that. Now, I feel like if he would have gone with his wife, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have gone down like this at all.
Yep. Yeah, because Hoffman was setting up his test by telling him, go home, spend time with your family, do all this. He knew, though, he knew that Rigg wouldn't do it. He knows the type of person Rigg is.
He's obsessive.
Yeah. Which, that was stated in Rigg's game. So he goes to sleep.
That was his downfall. That was his problem.
Yeah, he goes to sleep after Tracy leaves. He wakes up drugged in his bathtub. And, right now we're getting, Saw 1 vibes. Waking up in the bathtub again. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And then we hear that his test is about obsession, how Detective Matthews is still alive, but you have to let them save themselves. You cannot, interfere, whatever. Let them save themselves. So he gets a countdown. I think it was 10 hours, something on the clock, something like that.
Was it 10? I felt like it was.
I think the original
6 or something.
I think the original time was 10 hours. And then because he went to the hotel, he went to a bunch of different places. As the time went on, it cut really quickly though. It went down, I think, from 10 hours to 6 hours to 3 hours to 1 hour.
Well, there's travel time, so yeah.
So, but in his apartment now is a girl in a pig mask. This girl Brenda. His instructions are: she's a criminal, let her die. That's what he's told. But because of his obsession, he can't. Now, I don't know about you guys, but in that situation, I wouldn't let her die either.
I mean, knowing the way that Jigsaw thinks, and he's like, just let her die, and things will be okay. I don't know. I think I would just let her scream.
Oh, okay then.
I mean,
I wouldn't be able to stay and watch. That's
No,
for sure.
I wouldn't be able to watch, but I
'cause
could walk away.
this-
I think.
This out of so far all the movies we've seen, there's like obviously the last one, the whole movie was cringeworthy because I was like, whoa. But this was the only one that really of the traps that actually got to me.
Like
Because
psychologically, you mean?
Like it's just in my head, I'm just
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have nice long hair, and it's all about the scalping from the hair ripping out, and she's sitting there going,
I do right now. I'm just like, oh god.
So the trap, she had her ponytail, and it was tied into the gears of this machine. As the trap was going, the gears were turning and pulling her hair more and more and more, to the point
Wrapping it
where,
up.
yeah, to the point where it would rip her scalp. Rig was instructed to let her die. That's what he should have done. But the keys to the lock, the mechanism, were in the gears. So Rig had to investigate the gears and do it. Now, we're watching this movie, and both Nikki and Kim are screaming, "Cut her hair! Cut it!" Yeah, okay. I'm sitting there going, yeah, okay. With what? What is he gonna cut it with? So, first thing he does is he runs, and I'm waiting for one of them to yell, "Where the fuck are you going now?" You know, to get the thing you just told him to do, you know? So he runs to the kitchen, he grabs a knife, or he goes to grab a knife, he opens the drawer, and there's a note that says, "Stop wasting time." Like, all the knives have been taken out of his apartment. He's got nothing. He can't cut her hair, you know?
I mean, it would have taken too much time, but I'm sure there was another sharp implement that he could have.
Oh, there was. It
Somehow
was taped to the bottom of the
MacGyvered.
TV.
No, that he could have MacGyvered something.
And literally, okay, it's fucking hair. You could literally cut it with, oh my god,
Karate chop it?
scissors. Get something.
Yeah, he didn't have a pair of scissors. That's the thing. Every drawer in his house was empty. He's also remodeling, keep in mind. So a lot of stuff we put in boxes, guarantee you a lot of those boxes were just taken out. You know?
I'm sure there was something.
The
I mean,
only
in most cases, if long hair like that is put under stress, especially if it's not taken care of, it will break on its own.
Mm.
So, like, her hair had, like, fishing line strength at this point for it to, like, completely, like, start scalping her head.
I don't know.
Because hair would be pulled out, it would break, you know.
Sorry, I'm just
If,
like, wow.
if you want to test this out, I'll make a gear mechanism. We could put B's hair in it,
You could fuck up.
and then you could try to rip it and see what happens.
Kiss my ass.
But
No.
so we find out after Rig saved her and went into like the next room to go get something to try to help her, you know, towels, something to like help the wound. I think he was trying to call the police, something like. She immediately gets off the thing. She's half scalped, right? She gets off the thing, goes under the TV, grabs a knife. Now, the other thing you're thinking, oh, there's a knife there. Why didn't she just tell him if she knew there was a knife there? Well, she didn't know it was a knife. What we find out on her tape is she had a tape that played that said that Officer Rig was going to use all these pictures that were around the room, all these photos, to incriminate her and get her to spend her life in prison. So, taped under the desk would be an instrument that you could use to stop him. So it didn't quite say what it was. If it was a knife, she could have just yelled there was a knife under the thing. And then he probably would have dropped the knife and she still would have been able to grab the knife. But for all she knew, it was a gun or something. You know, she didn't know any, you know. And it's whatever. Rig tried shooting the mechanism. Like, he tried everything to stop it.
Well, it stopped it for a second.
Yeah, and then it went faster.
Well, because it had to catch up to the time, because it, you know,
Yeah.
everything is. I mean, even though John said earlier that time is a hallucination or whatever, and
It's an
things
illusion.
aren't sequential, he puts timers on everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
Good
an
point.
illusion.
But he does really put timers on fucking everything.
Yeah. Well, because if you're just like, oh, I'm going to do this and you have until forever to do it, you're just going to be like, I'm not going to do it. You know, like, I have time. I'm not going to cut my eye out, you know? Like, are you kidding? Like, I'll just hope somebody finds me. You know, but with a timer, you're like, oh, shit. You know, you have to make a choice.
yeah, but like they're always 60 seconds. And after you flip out a little bit, you have 30 seconds left. I
Hmm.
mean, he has to understand that, people are going to flip out. They can't come to terms immediately that they have to save their life.
Some people can. Amanda did.
Well, she flipped out a little bit.
Yeah.
yeah.
Remember,
She
the whole
wasted
team.
it.
She did, but she still made it. That's the point. So while this is going on, we have the FBI coming in, and they're like, "All right, so they're researching some stuff. They go and research Art Blank, one of his buildings, because they find out he's John's partner.
Mhm.
So in one of his buildings are two folders. It said one saves a life. Oh no, never mind. This is hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. When Rig goes to leave, this is when he sees there's two keys. It says one saves a life, the other takes one. One is a key to a hotel, the other's an unidentified key.
Mhm.
So, figure the only lead he has right now is to go to this hotel. So he goes to the hotel, he goes up to this room, puts it in, opens a box, which is made to believe that it's his wife's head. That's what you think is in the box, and then he opens it up, and it's just a pig mask with the hair that we're oh so familiar with. It says, "Put on the mask to hide your identity," and then it sets up the hotel owner Ivan, who, as we have seen, sexually abused women, and he's like the first thing that was written on for the hair test was "see as I see." This one is "feel as I feel." So he was recruiting Rig to, like, it's looking to frame him for recruitment, right? That's what his whole test was made to look like to the police, that Rig is now becoming the next accomplice. Rig did have to, yeah. Rig did have to put this guy in a trap, but the guy, he chose to save himself. Whatever. That's still on Rig, right? Rig did it. He put him in it, even if John's forcing him to do it. He still put the guy in there. He strapped him in.
The thing is, though,
he handed him the tools that could save his life.
The only reason, he had already served time for doing what he did to women. The thing is that the reason why he was picked is because he didn't stop. He was still doing it, even though he said he wasn't.
Right.
So after Rig found out that bit,
Rig
he
was
hooked him up.
Furious, yeah.
Yeah, he hooked him up. If it would have been like, no, like, this is all, if it was proof that it was all like bullshit and he had cleaned up his life, I'm pretty sure Rig would have been like, what the fuck, and walked out.
Yeah.
So the only reason was because he was like, no, I'm not doing it. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I did it. And then
so he's strapped to a bed. He's got these, they're like noose style things on all of his limbs.
They are not noose style. They are leather BDSM cuffs. They're leather cuffs.
They were cuffs, yeah.
Oh, were they cuffs? I didn't see the leather.
Yes, they are leather cuffs.
Okay. I just saw what it looked like afterwards.
He is being bound as he bound his
victims.
That was what he said.
And he was handed 2 buttons. He pushed one of them, and the cringing from the two of these girls, as this giant scythe came down right into his eyeball.
Well, okay. The whole point was that his head was in a vice, and if he didn't press the buttons, his head was going to get smushed, and you could see it. It was pressing, and his head was starting to turn into an egg shape. So he had to. So he pressed the one button, and the scythe came down into his eye. But he just had to press the other button. I mean, you're gonna be blind, but you're gonna be saved.
And not ripped apart into pieces. Because not only was they cuffs, but they were. He's the pulley. This is an actual pulley.
Yeah.
This is the rack. This is what the rack is actually supposed to be.
No, this is not quite the rack. The rack is like a slow process. These literally just ripped your arms.
What is it? I can't
one
think
at a
what
time.
It's called. It's drawn and quartered.
Yes,
It's
yes.
the
Drawn and
four
quartered.
the four horses and the pole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more like what this is.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
they
there was
just
multiple
ripped
things
his
in this
limbs
trap.
all over the place. So,
You just had to press that other button.
mm-hmm. So in this now, a secret drawer, secret compartment opens up, which Rig gets, and it says go back to where it all began. So we get some flashbacks now of a school, which we see a little girl who's being abused by her father, and
Was it her father,
It
or
was the
was
father.
it just the I thought it was just the
Father.
principal
no, it was the father.
of the school.
Nope.
No. it
No,
was his
no.
father.
The principal came in because the principal called the parents in because the girl had bruises and stuff on her. So called the parents in for questioning. The
Okay.
father was sitting to the little girl like, shh. Like don't say anything. Rig noticed this, like knew that the father, was up to no good. And the mother was standing up to, or was,
She was just ignoring the fact that it was even going on.
she was keeping her mouth shut, so she was sticking up for the father, and it left this like really bad situation. And then we see Rig, like when they have a little altercation, and then Rig just turns and decks the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So we find out now Art Blank also acted as the lawyer. It wasn't Rig's lawyer. It was the father.
Yeah.
It was the one that was abusing the child. It was his lawyer. But prior to this, the first time we meet Art is actually in a trap. We have
Very beginning of the movie.
we have Sight versus Speak. It's which one is a better sense to have. It's like, can you deal with the loss of sight or can you deal with the loss of talking? Art definitely had the advantage because he saw what was going on. But the guy whose eyes were sewn shut had also a strength advantage. It was pretty evenly matched, except for the fact that Art could see where the keys were and different things like that, where the guy who couldn't see had none of that information. He didn't know that there was a key attached to the back of Art's neck.
I also feel like it was also an intelligence factor because the guy that could not see wasn't very smart, whereas Art is a fucking lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It was brain versus brawn, sight versus speak,
Yeah.
all at the same time. And Art did survive this. He let himself out. The thing that was unnecessary was him just screaming at the end and ripping all the stitches out of his mouth. That was unnecessary. He could have found a way out
later.
And he didn't need to do that. But
No. But I mean, that wouldn't have made him a menacing looking character in the end.
yeah, I guess. So
He's got that big ass scar.
we see Art is like all woven into this. He's been involved too from the very, very beginning of Jigsaw's life, of John's life. Not like when he was born or anything, but like the I literally mean Jigsaw and not John. It's like from the incarnation of Jigsaw. This is Art's been there from the beginning. So now he's like, oh, all you cops are thick as thieves, because we see Hoffman sticking up for Riggs, saying, no, he hit him first, I saw it. So Art's like, oh, you scumbags. And this is funny coming from the lawyer,
Well, to be fair, he's not because he's a lawyer, but because of what he did as a lawyer is why he's also a scumbag.
Yep. So now Riggs' third test
Task.
is task test. His task is save as I save, and it turns out to be the husband and wife. And we hear the tape from the wife's point of view that says, how many broken bones have you suffered from your husband? Will you break the bonds that tie? And all of the rods that are through them, they're just flesh wounds for her. But for the husband,
they're vital.
They are vital. They're through main organs, main arteries, everything like that. Once they are removed, he is fucked.
He's gonna die.
So it's... Do you want to exact your revenge, or do you want to lay here and die? Is basically the choice that he gave to her.
Because if she would have left the rods in herself, she would have bled to death.
Yeah.
But taking them out, I mean, she's still gonna bleed, but she's gonna be able to seek help after that.
Yep. So Rig, offers to save her, whatever, but he goes, "You have to save yourself." He gave her the key so she could do it herself, because that's the whole point of this test. He's now starting to be like, okay, I got to do what Jigsaw wants me to do. Here's the key. It's his key. It said it was just off the map. So he grabbed that. He gets the hint of the G for the Gideon factory, which is where we've been pointing all along. So he knows now to go to the meat packing facility, the Gideon facility. And he sets off the fire alarm, right? What they did not tell you, and what you may not have realized, is this school that we're in is the same school that Troy was in from Saw 3. The guy that had the hooks in his body that he had to rip apart.
Oh, I forgot about that thing.
Yeah, the door was welded shut. That was in a school, if you noticed all the...
Well, I knew it was
the
at a
borders.
school because
Yeah.
you saw all the desks and stuff, but I didn't know it was like the same one.
Yeah,
because
it's the
I wasn't
same
really...
school.
Okay.
So it's something they don't quite tell you in the movie, and you never really find out in terms of the franchise. It's something that I believe, if I remember correctly, is mentioned in the DVD audio commentary, but I'm not quite sure when in the timeline it is. It may have been like the next day or a day later or something like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I guess it's a couple days later. It's got to be 3 because it was after Carrie, and Carrie was in there for that.
Yeah.
So it had to be at least 3 to 4 days after. Because you're meant to believe all the events of Saw 3 happened within a couple hours of each other, and that's not the case. Carrie was abducted. That went a couple days before Lynn and all that was from the hospital. Like there's days apart there. So that's that. Also in the school though, Agent Perez and what's his name?
Douchebag.
Peter Strahm. You don't like Peter Strahm?
No, he wasn't exactly the smartest.
They find Billy sitting in one of the administration offices. Plays the tape. It's around Billy's neck. It says, "Agent Perez, your partner will soon take the life of an innocent man. Your next move will be critical." And then the doll starts whispering. And as she gets closer to try to listen to the tape, the doll's head explodes. Shrapnel and gas goes flying into her face.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I was trying to figure out what the gas was. I was like, I don't know what the...
Yeah, well,
I felt that it was a little overkill.
I think
It
the
was.
gas was just like probably like a mace type thing, just like to
Well,
inhale it and just to like
she-
leave her gasping. It
she
wasn't
did
to
die though, right?
No.
No, well, we don't know.
Well, as of now, she's not dead, because it's left off when Agent Perez goes and Jill's still sitting in the interrogation. She's been in there for hours upon hours. He barges back in there and he goes, "My
right,
partner
she's
is
in
fighting for my
ICU.
life," So,
Yeah.
or fighting for her life, whatever. So that's where we
Gotcha.
left. So, as of this movie, she's still alive.
Yeah, like I didn't really get why that happened to her
Mhm.
because she seemed like she was a good detective rather than Strom, because Strom was just like, well, this is this and this is that, and you're an ass, and you just listen to me because I'm the one that's in charge, kind of thing. And I couldn't stand him. And Perez was just like, we have to think logically about this. What about this? And what about this? He's like, no, stop it.
Yep.
So I was really, really confused when that happened to her because I didn't feel like she did anything wrong. She was just with wrong company.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were just getting her out of the way.
Maybe. Yeah.
It wasn't like, I don't feel like what happened to her was lethal, and I think that was on purpose. I think it was really just to get her out of the bad situation that he was about to walk into.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
because the test wasn't.
It's to
for
separate
her.
them. Yeah.
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 Okay.
So, um, we get some flashbacks because we find out that Detective Matthews has been alive through this whole thing, and this is what Riggs has been,
Yeah.
attempting to go through. So we get some flashbacks of Jigsaw fixing up Amanda's mistakes, fixing up Matthews' legs, repairing him, feeding him, all kinds of stuff, nursing him back to health. So
The one flashback where he's in this cell and he's sitting there,
Talking
he's
to the rat.
talking to the rat, giving it a belly rub. I'm
yeah, it
like,
just goes
that
to
was
show you
weird.
how insane he's getting.
what?
Now the actor.
Funny.
So cute.
The actor, I forget what he's. I think he's one of Marky Mark's guys, the Funky Bunch.
He does. He looks familiar that way.
He does look really familiar. I thought it too, but I was like, I know the one FBI agent. The FBI agents, I've seen them both in other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Donnie Wahlberg. Yep.
Yeah. Donnie Wahlberg.
Okay.
He's one of the Wahlberg brothers.
Gotcha. That's why he looks so familiar.
Yeah. Right. His brother's Mark Wahlberg, the Marky Mark, right?
Yep.
Marky Mark.
Yep.
Oh, he hates being called that.
Oh, of course, of course. His character, he was told, died in the events of Saw 3. So when Saw 4 came and he was still under contract, he was not too pleased because he wanted to go on. He wanted to do another movie.
Oh.
So they made it up to him, and they used him in another one of their movies, Dead Silence, that the writers wrote, and had him star as the main character for missing out on the job that he was trying to get for this movie because he was under contract. But yeah, he was none too pleased that he had to come back to reprise his character as like a main, not quite as main as like Rig in this movie, but still played a pretty crucial part, so he had to be around for the filming.
Also, I mean, you could see like, although you know that these traps that the actors are in are not going to harm them, it looked like he was struggling a little bit. Like he had to, like the chain around his neck.
He's on a noose over a block of ice, and the block of ice, if it melted, it's gonna hang him. That's what that was for, right?
They have them in pulley systems and all kinds of stuff, though.
Yeah.
Right. And the block of ice, if it melted, it shifts the weight of the water tray that's on, and the water tray shifts, and it turns the weight in favor of Mark Hoffman, which would then trigger a panel to electrocute the water and fry Hoffman.
We think.
Right.
Yeah.
It's up to believe that way, but I don't think that's the way it was actually.
No, it wasn't actually set up. And the goal is, as it's revealed, that Art Blank is the accomplice. He's Zep from this movie. He's the first movie Zep. Like he's Saw 4's Saw 1 Zep, where he's just in a test of his own, and he's got no choice. He has to play the game. We see he's got a device hooked up his spinal cord to his neck, and what it is it's a giant basically pair of scissors that will cut his spinal cord.
Okay, so is that because I was trying to figure out what it was, because you just see the back, and I was trying to figure out what it actually was going on.
Yeah.
When it would just snip and right through his neck, right through the spinal cord, it would sever him and kill him instantly. So that's what he had. So he had no choice but to set this up. So he's there to ensure that both Hoffman and
Matthews,
Detective Eric Matthews, survive. All they have to do is stay alive until the countdown runs. So we now have Detective Matthews in another situation that is much like Saw 2, where he's just got to play the game by sitting there and doing nothing, just talking to Jigsaw, whatever. So there's a lot of little nods to the first couple movies, in this one movie. And that's why I really like the layers of it all. It's like, Detective Matthews, you got the same fucking style trap again. Like, just, he's trying to sit there and hang himself and all this stuff to get, he did it to, like, get Art, because he's trying to get free. He's thinking that he's the mastermind of it, and that's not the case. In the meantime, Rig makes it through. He runs all the way in, and he gets there up until he's got 10 seconds left. He spends 8 of those seconds deciding if he's going to ram the door or not. And then at the literal last second, he breaks through the door, which set everything in motion.
Oh my god.
And we get these giant ice blocks that are hanging on the ceiling in like a... I don't know. They just swing down and they crush. And they smash right over Eric Matthews' head, just crushing his skull. And then the water shifts, and we're led to believe that Hoffman is frying. At this time, Art is screaming at him, "You fucked up, you were being tested, Jigsaw's testing us." He goes to pull out a tape. Rig thinks he's pulling out a weapon, so he shoots Art right in the head. Art dies as he pushes the tape. The tape reveals, this was the game, your obsession, the whole thing is you could not do what I told you. Their game was to just survive. By entering the door, you've killed them both.
Yeah.
In the meantime...
What you didn't mention was...
In the meantime,
okay.
Eric Matthews had a gun, so when Riggs barged through the door, he got shot in the process. So now Riggs is left to bleed out and die. We see Hoffman now. Hoffman stands up. He lets himself free out of the trap. And
He was so mad.
yeah, Riggs is just sitting there in shock. Like, this had a very Saw 1 feel to it. It's like, oh, the guy that you thought was dead the whole time gets up, at the end of the movie, and you're like, oh my god. Well, this one, it's not the guy you thought was dead. I mean, you thought he was dead because you thought he was going to get electrocuted, but it's the guy that was actually in the trap, so it's really interesting, like, the layers that they added onto that, because that's combining Saw 1 and Saw 2 now.
Yeah, because Amanda was in the trap, basically. Yeah.
So, there's so many layers of this. And then the Saw 3 elements of it is, all of a sudden, we have, what's his name? Jeff. We see Jeff, right? When Strom enters the house, he hears a noise. And he turns off in another direction to go follow the noise. We see Jeff, and Nikki sits there and goes, "I forgot about Jeff." And it's like, yeah.
This was the point when we had our 5-minute intermission.
Yeah.
Well, it was just before this. It was just before Jeff showed up on the screen.
And that's why I threw out all that, like, whoa, light bulb.
Yeah. So, because, like, yeah, he's still running around, or whatever. And then, all of a sudden, we're following him, and we're following Strom, and then you start hearing the dialogue from the end of Saw 3. And B's just, like, really confused. Kim's just sitting there going, what? And Nikki jumped up and goes, "This is happening at the same time as Saw 3. And then all of a sudden, like, you saw B, just the look on her face goes, "Oh my god!" Like, this is my favorite twist in all of Saw. Because me personally, I'm sitting there in the theaters, midnight showing. I have been up for almost, I think, 30 hours or something at the point that I saw this. Because I came out of going to work, like, really early, getting almost no sleep because I was excited for Saw that night, coming home, going out to dinner with some friends, or running right out to go see Saw 4, right? Midnight showing. So I'm sitting there, I'm like keeping myself awake, through this movie. I'm trying everything I can. I'm dozing. And this happens, and I'm just like, what? This doesn't make sense. What? Like, and I'm just sitting there, and then it clicks, somewhere, and I'm like, this is stupid. And then, like, the movie ends, and I literally stood up and go, where the fuck Right? So I was so mad. I walked out of the theater, the movie's over, whatever. But I walked out of the theater being upset. I came back and saw the movie the next day after I had some sleeping. Came back and saw it with like a clear head. And I realized, I'm like, oh, here's all the layers. I saw all the clues and everything that they were doing to build up to it. So when I was able to see it with a clear head, I was just like, oh my god, this movie is brilliant. Like, this is fantastic. Up to this point, I have never heard, seen, or any other movie taking place at the same time as another movie. Like, never ever heard of that. Like, I'm sure there's some examples now, but I still can't come up with one to be like, yep, that was definitely what happened.
Isn't that like the concept of the TV show 24?
A little bit.
Well, it's everything's going on at the same time because they're within that 24-hour period.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure that 24 was on the air yet. I'm not sure about that. So I don't know if they drew inspiration from this. There's a lot of things that I want to say drew inspiration. Like, there's like Lost and Once Upon a Time and shows like that kind of adopted this kind of format after the fact. And it was like, oh, okay, so like you can make a very smart, intelligent thing that like doesn't dumb your fans down. And one of my friends, he's a streamer on Twitch, Red 5 Drifter. He said he was standing in the sitting in the theater watching this, and when it was revealed that this was happening at Saw 3, he stood up and goes, "Holy shit! What the fuck?" And somebody else stood up from the front of the theater and goes, "I know, right?" And he said, like, he goes, at that moment, he's like, that's when you realized who the fans were and who was just coming to see the movie without knowing the context of the thing. And that's what, like, once again, I can't stress how much, like, I can really appreciate that these movies go to this trouble to not be a dumbed down, watered down version of a generic horror movie. They have these layers there for the people that want to take the time to appreciate it,
I can say that now, after podcasting and like breaking down shows and breaking down movies and like kind of getting into nitty gritty of how the story works and how how the actors have to play and stuff, I can say that before doing this podcast for like the last 5 years, I would have been even more like, I do not want to spend my time watching this because I wouldn't have been able to break it down. I wouldn't have been able to like pluck some of the things. Like, I do miss things still, but like I am far more attentive when I'm watching movies now and when I'm watching shows. And it does change my view a little bit, but I still don't like the series.
But I think you have some
appreciate what they're doing. Yeah, I can appreciate what they're doing with it.
Yeah. So, there's a whole lot going on here, and there's stuff, hooks, like things that were left unanswered, right? We find out that the note that Amanda got in Saw 3 was written by by Detective Hoffman.
Yeah.
Right? We saw him write a note, put it in a drawer, and that was it. Then when they're doing like the whole flashback thing, the montage during the Saw theme at the end of the movie, it shows he wrote Amanda on the thing. He put it in the envelope and then shows Amanda opening it up, Amanda reading it, Amanda crying. So we still don't know what it said.
Probably like, you done fucked up.
But, now we know that there's something there. And that goes to show you that Hoffman knew about Amanda. But did Amanda know about Hoffman? That we don't know.
No.
If we are under the thought process that she didn't string up Carrie by herself, then yes, she would know.
Yeah.
Unless she thought John did it somehow.
Right. Amanda probably wasn't there to set up Carrie, just to set up the trap prior to and afterwards.
But it's not to say they may have known each other. I know the answer to this. I'm just trying to give you guys some insight how it could go either way.
La-di-da.
No, but I'm saying is like I'm
Updated.
not gonna say one thing and spoil it for you guys and lead you down the assumption that it does go this way. I'm just leaving it open as if I was, completely objective.
Well, by leaving it open, you kind of tell the story.
No,
Yeah,
it could go either
Kim's
way.
thinking the same thing as I am right now.
It could go either way. So what are you thinking?
That they knew. That Hoffman knew, but she didn't. Because she wasn't there to really set up the trap like with Carrie, because she was only going to be there for after the fact to keep tabs so she could go back and tell John what happened.
So we'll have to see.
Jealous as we noticed that she is, I don't think she would be okay with the.
Nope. With another apprentice? No way.
There was another word I was going to use, but it wasn't going to work because Hoffman's a guy. I was like, the concept of another hen in the hen house kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we will definitely have to see. But now you guys can understand how we get to learn more about Jigsaw as the series goes on, even though he's dead.
So obviously, okay, yeah, but the last scene is Hoffman closing Strom into the same room where John was John's dead body.
Yes.
So.
Well, that's the last scene before, and then it cuts back to the morgue.
Yes.
And it cuts back to Hoffman listening to the tape saying, "You think you would go untested." So now keep in mind, this is now Jigsaw fucking with Hoffman saying, "You're next."
Yeah.
After the events of all of this.
We know that Strom killed an innocent man. He
killed Jeff.
That was all. Yeah, he killed Jeff. Although we can argue to say that Jeff murdered John before that, so he wasn't innocent. But anyways, so I'm led to believe that Strom did some pretty nasty shit before this, and that's why he was also another target.
Could be.
So, I mean, that will probably lead into the 5th movie.
Could be.
Well,
but keep in mind, Jigsaw's body has been found. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the autopsy. Yeah. We left Strom in the room with Jigsaw's body.
And he was alive.
At that point, he was alive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We're left to believe some stuff. So, you guys, I know the answer, but you guys will find out next week. But now, another layer of things I just want to add to you now is Saw 2. Right, Saw 2, there was this whole thing of like, oh, Detective Matthews, he's a dirty cop, and all this other stuff. Well, now you guys know how Jigsaw got all that information, how he got all the police files. He had somebody in on the inside, Because that was another thing. How does Jigsaw know all this stuff? Like, how does he have access to police files and, all these things? Well, there you go. You got your answer. Question you may not have even been asking, but you got your answer.
I mean, I figured he's an engineer. He probably knows his way around a computer system. He's probably got some hacking experience under his belt, maybe?
Nope.
He's got inside people. He knows all the peoples.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, next movie will be the start of what you guys get to see with Hoffman. Now that you guys know he is, in fact, the successor. Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe we called that because
you guys did. I gave you that much. I tried really hard. I tried really hard through that podcast. I don't know if you guys were paying attention to my face when you were talking about it. I'm just sitting there going, "Who? Oh yeah." I was trying really hard to play that one off
because we almost didn't mention it when we talked about it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Wait, there is one thing we need to mention." I was like, "That guy that me and Kim picked out."
Because it was one of those things where. I think we do it a lot. Me and you, we like pick some person. We're like, I don't like you.
Yeah, like I said, I have Creepdar, and he was making it ding to like number 5 on the scale.
Yep.
You know those paranormal things that people are like, ooh, ectoplasm. It's one of those things, except it's with creeps.
Yep.
It was just from the moment we saw him, he gave off that like I'm a douchebag.
Like. Yeah. So, I guess some of the open-ended things that we have left now to find out through the series is what was written in that letter.
Mhm.
We still don't know.
which we
happened
still
to
don't
Strom?
know. What happened to
I
Strom?
yelled.
What
I yelled in
happened?
the middle of it when she opened it. I was like, "We still don't know what's going on the letter."
Yeah, the little girl.
What happened to the little girl? And how Hoffman is going to be tested. So now, if Hoffman,
What happened to Strom?
if Hoffman is going
Yeah.
to be tested, that implies what? Hoffman's not going to set traps for himself.
Which means there's another person. That
Oh, I want to puke. Stop with the extra people.
So
It's. Yeah.
so that's where that's headed.
well, I mean, we literally watched freaking. No, I can't think of the. Fuck. Our main cop for the entire stupid thing.
Rig.
Rig.
Yeah.
We watched Rig set up traps.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he literally could trick someone else into setting up traps for somebody else.
Yep.
Well, it just comes down to, what was there other survivors, other traps that we didn't know about?
Oh,
or...
and we forgot to mention very shortly, we did have a cameo from Addison from Saw 2, the gas house
in
as
a
well.
flashback.
She was trying to
Where?
solicit John outside of the
Oh,
clinic.
You're
So
like,
Xavier was
fuck
not
out.
too far off in Saw 2, and he said the only door you know how to open is the one between your legs. He didn't know her personally. He just, said,
I think we came down to, like, we knew that she was a prostitute when we talked about Saw 2.
Yeah. So
So,
we have confirmation. She was.
yeah.
And John's just like, do you not realize what this is? Like, you're outside of a clinic for people to get help. Go home. You're a beautiful girl. So he paid attention. He knew who she was. And then the fact that this all gets connected later when Hoffman starts giving him files. And I guess the other question you guys have to ask is, how long has Hoffman been involved in all this?
How did he get involved in the first place?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's some of the questions we have left for going into Saw 5 now. So hopefully that's enough hype to keep you guys interested. But I know Kim's still very, very interested in the series. So as usual, let me ask, out of all the traps that were in this movie, which one was your favorite and which one it was the worst? I think the hair one was the worst for B.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was.
The one that made my stomach turn the most, just because of the preface of why it was going on, was the one in the hotel room, because rape culture and all that stuff is very, very, it's gross. I can't.
It is gross.
I can't.
The pictures. I would agree with you, because when they started showing all the pictures and he was talking
And the movie was playing too, and it
that
was
just, yeah.
it was hard to watch.
Yeah.
It was really hard to watch.
Favorite trap?
Favorite trap? I mean, I want to say the one with the see and speak, because it was actually kind of entertaining to watch the one guy just maniacally, like, just swinging whatever he can because he can't see shit, and then Arch trying to, like, the whole time. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man,
He can't even be like, I'm not the one doing this. He can't even say that.
you can't even, like, let out, like, I'm sure he doesn't know the code with the beepies.
Morse code.
Yeah, he probably doesn't even know that, and
Even if he
even
did,
if
the other guy wouldn't have.
Exactly. So it's like, well, they're fucked.
Yeah.
So I guess that one is my favorite
If
because
somebody was sitting over there tapping, and I'm sitting there blind and can't see anything, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Like, dude.
yeah, makes you want to learn Morse code just in case.
Yeah, but the other person's not going to understand it.
Yeah, I know the other person would need to know it too, though.
Well, it's like learning sign language, I guess. She wouldn't be able to see it.
B, favorite trap?
Our knife friend.
Cecil's trap.
Purely
Oh.
because it was more about Cecil and his cussing and his I don't have a fucking soul. And then when he gets all he's like wiggling, and then when he falls out of the chair, his chair breaks, and then he goes rushing at John. He falls into the barbed wire, and it's like
Yeah.
The sounds he was making did kind of sound like a turkey.
Yep. My favorite trap was Billy. I didn't see that coming. Now, Omi called it and said it's gonna explode. You know, it's a bomb, whatever.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting that the first time I saw this movie, because we're sitting here. This is the fourth movie. This is the fourth time we've seen Billy, and it's just like, oh, it's Billy again. You know, it's whatever. I'm not expecting anything, and then all of a sudden his face blows off, and I'm just like, excuse me? And like watching this at home, it's not bad. Watching in the theater, it was a jump scare. It's just the way that the audio is produced and everything, and like the sound, it made people jump. Like, people threw popcorn. Like, yeah, it was crazy. And that's another reason why I really enjoy watching these movies in the theater, is you get aspects of it that, you know, you will not get anywhere else. Like, I remember watching Jurassic Park: The Lost World, right? The second one. I saw that in theater. And in the scene where they, like, crawl into the middle of the log and the Stegosaurus jabs its tail through the thing, the reaction, people screamed in the theater. Like, you watch it at home and it's just another scene. It's whatever. But in the theater, those were jump scares. Like, the combination of the subwoofer and the sound and the big screen and, you know, all of that just completely changed the movie. So when you guys get the pleasure of seeing this in theaters for, you know, the next one, Jigsaw, when that comes out, you're going to get to feel like a way the movie that you're never going to be able to experience it again, because I've watched that scene with the Lost World, Jurassic Park, in a home theater with surround sound and did not get the same reaction. So it's never the same as going to the theater.
Well, you're also getting like the interactions of the people around you. I mean, just and then like, which I'm curious with horror movies and stuff. What is it? I was just stupid because I saw Signs in the movie theater, and the movie's not scary. There's nothing like it. There's the part where the alien walks across, like you see, it's the you're watching the video or whatever, and it's like the alleyway, and you watch the alien walk across just like the front of the screen. I jumped.
Yeah. Yep. Carlos,
like hardcore. I was like,
Carlos is saying in chat, the knife chair was the worst, and the two-way trap with Hoffman and Detective Matthews was his favorite one. But Jigsaw got the inspiration for the razor maze in Saw 1 from the Cecil.
Yeah, we kind of said something about that earlier. Yeah.
There's just so many throwbacks to the first three movies in this one. It's just, I love the layers of this movie. This is the perfect follow-up. Like, as much as I was frustrated that I didn't get the answer about the little girl and, you know, all that, like, as frustrated as I was coming out of the theater, I still had to appreciate that this movie just took the time to be a complete fan service. And progressing, but, you know, progressing the story, but not the timeline, you know?
Right.
So, but, yeah. All right, well, I think that about does it, unless you ladies have anything else. No? All right. So, Saw 5, next week. Dare I ask, at this point, which one now is your favorite?
Wait till next one, so we have a bigger list.
I think you guys are all... I think it's the same order as last week. You just put this movie in front of... between Saw 1 and 3.
I don't know. I almost want to put 4 before 1. I mean,
wow.
I don't know. I think just the storyline I felt was more complete for some reason in this one.
We had a lot more police procedural in this one than we did in any of the other ones.
They're like right there. 1 and 4 are like right there. They're together. Yeah. They're there.
They're even. I'd say they're. I have to put 1 before 4 because without 1 we wouldn't have 4.
Yeah, that's right.
So I got to put 1, 4. I think it was 3, 2. I think that was our order for all of them, and I think that still stands as yeah. All right, Kim, where can people find you?
On the Twitters at HUFFITY, PUFFITY.
Awesome. Nikki, where can the people find you?
Also on Twitter at LadyVenom24, LadyVenom24.
It's not as catchy of a song. Because it's not a song. Carla says, what little girl? The little girl at the end of Saw 3.
Jeff's daughter.
Jeff's daughter. She's still missing. You can find me down below at Phenomenon, PHENOMEDOM. Did we see the bathroom in this movie? I don't think we saw the bathroom.
No, but you're cutting out a little bit. So.
Yeah,
it's because the music's playing. And you can find us all and more on Facebook, Gmail, G+, Twitter, Space, and right here on YouTube at /ASO TV Podcast for some of your favorite TV shows, games, and movies. Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Fart noise.